only a transition to a different sphere of consciousness. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. She is a living presence in their spiritual earthbound plane.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Talking to the Dead podcast. As is becoming the routine in these podcasts, I'm able to at the moment channel some musical inspiration with the help of Neil Peart and others, and in return I also I'm able to pass that information over to Ester, who's an amazing classical pianist, and she then interprets those sounds and the emotions that she feels from the music into something which sounds an awful lot more like something you'd recognize as a melody and as music. So I'm incredibly indebted to her for doing that. This week, the same will happen. Last week, you will remember we were talking about redemption. So if you missed that episode, go back and hear it. But for now, I thought it would be quite interesting because things are going so quickly. And I never normally listen to what I record, or certainly I haven't listened to the piano playing before. But just to give you an indication of what it sounded like when it came through last week with Redemption, and what Esther managed to turn it into, I thought I would first of all play the bit that I did. So here is last week's Redemption channeling of the piano. Well, to my ears, that didn't sound terribly dramatic. However, when Esther got to work with it, and she's pretty sure that she's receiving some inspiration too from people or a person, which may well be true. And I think most definitely the words that came to me were coming from a range of different sources. Obviously, I do believe that Neil has been heavily influencing this, or maybe even writing it himself. I can't say for sure. Later on, I hope that we get the chance to talk to Neil again. He mentioned last week that we were going to talk about creation this week. But before we do that, I thought that I would then play you now the piece that Esther has managed to compose or to interpret from the piano that I created. And overlaying that, as usual, are the words that Neil has obviously channeled to me, usually at a different time. So here we are this week with Redemption. This is the place you cannot see. These are the thoughts that make me me. Hiding in plain sight, please look into my dreams. Share them with others, show them, make them clean. Have I not done enough in last life's journey to undo all I did and prove I can be worthy? There are so many here who need eternal peace, some time for reflection, some time for release. It may take a lifetime before lessons are learned, living adventures for the karma that's earned. Looking around this vastness of hope, I know once I'm here, I can untie that rope. That knot had bound me up and pushed me down, some sloping roads downwards that made me drown. In grief, guilt, filled with such threat, frequently stuck in a cycle of regret. Some are left behind, unwilling to pass. They need some help to join this class. Here I can forgive my soul. Life can have many more days until I feel healed after trying new ways. Together we learn, together we choose the things we should learn and the things we must lose. redemption is final, and the old life turns black. We are free to move upwards and never look back. Well, I hope you'll agree there was a tremendous feeling listening to that. As I know that Neil said a while ago, one of the hardest aspects of what he's trying to do is to try to convey to us what he's seeing and the messages that he wants to pass to us, that life does not end when we die. And for me, one of the greatest pleasures at the moment is being able to channel the music and have Esther interpret it for me in a musical way, and then have Neil, and probably with the assistance of other people, help me with some words that can go along with it. The words came really easily. Sometimes I have to recheck things, and the music just comes through, and for it to be converted in that way to a lovely melody is truly great. And I really hope that we can continue doing this, and that we'll find ultimately, when we finish this project of the music, some greater use for it. Now, as has happened before, it's no coincidence, I believe, that before one of my podcasts, I will get an email perhaps from a listener about a particular person or a subject. And the same has just happened, and I'm absolutely convinced that there is no mistake. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe what's happening to me and the messages I get and the dreams that I have, the sounds that I hear, the words that flow through me are happening for a reason. And the amazing thing that happened was that I got this wonderful email, a very touching email from Rachelle, and she would prefer me not to mention where she comes from, but obviously from the United States. And she's given me permission to read the email in full, limited by time, so I'll probably condense it a little bit as nicely as I can. But I feel this is very connected to our next phase, which is creation. And the email is, my name is Rachelle. I've been listening to your podcast for a while and I enjoy it very much. I'm wondering if you could try to reach my partner for me. It may be too soon. I do not know. He just passed on May 15th of pancreatic cancer. He was diagnosed 6 months prior to that. It went by fast. I felt like I had said what I needed to say to him prior to his passing, but it has been coming through to me from others that he may want to speak to me. I tried pendulum and alphabet chart, but I must admit I have little patience with practicing things, and although the pendulum answered that he was there, I couldn't spell out much that made sense to me. Another friend told me of her guides and said he wanted me to communicate with him, but they did not say more. Maybe I'm supposed to do it myself, or if so, I will continue to try. I just thought of you this morning and thought that maybe you would have some insight or be able to connect for me. His name is Nicolas. I don't know if you need more information than that, but please write to me if you do. Anyway, she said, thank you very much for what you're doing with your time and sharing with others. There is so much we don't remember, and I love hearing about all the other side, and so many of the messages you receive just feel like they ring true to me. Thank you very much for that. Now, I really wasn't sure when I read that a couple of days ago what it would mean. I do get a fair number of people who wish to communicate with dead loved ones. But I know that Nicolas is somehow involved in the process. And he's obviously, and there is no mistake in this. There is that thought that Nicolas is there and that Nicolas wanted to come through. On the other hand, he was going to come through either way, because there is no past, there is no present, there is no future. Wherever Nicolas is, he has been there forever, as well as being here simultaneously, perhaps, when he was in his life as recently as May. but I felt strongly that I would try and see if I could ask Titan to come through before we move on, and see if there's anything that I could help Rachelle with, and see what Nicolas wants to say. So I've been sitting here for a few minutes, just quietly thinking about things, and Titan has popped in, and she's not going to stay for very long, but she does want to address my last email. She says that you've probably found before with other people who have passed on quite recently, it's quite difficult to get contact with them, either because they're not really ready, or she says quite often it's because it's not appropriate. It can cause sometimes more harm and more damage to those left behind. So there's always a period of time where really it's just not possible to talk or for words to have any meaning. And this is not, she says, any reflection on the love or anything else that the person feels for the people that have left behind. It's because they're going through a particular period in relation to our time, where they're having to think about what's gone on and get ready to move through to the next stages. Yes, I must say, Titan, that's pretty much what has been made clear before with other requests for information about recently passed people. Is there anything else perhaps you could say about Nicolas or what might happen? She's saying that Nicolas is a very creative person, and the reason why this has happened now is because it's all about creation, and the creative people are most definitely interested in helping with this podcast. It's something that they've been able to do for a long time through music or words, and most definitely Nicolas is involved and is very happy to learn himself about his situation and to help other people learn about his situation. Nicolas is in time able to communicate for himself, but for now he's pointing very much to apparently the words that will come through today on creation, and he would like you, Rachelle, to I'm hearing this through Titan, to concentrate on this particular episode and the understanding of creation and the purpose of creation. And Titan is saying, really, that's all that we're going to say at this point. But he's actually, I don't know if this means anything, but he's actually saying, Mama. He's saying, Mama. And he's also saying, don't forget the name I had for you. There we go. So that's what we'll do for now. So thank you very much for that. Titan, maybe we could get back to where we should be today with Neil Peart. And she said, yep, he's certainly there waiting, and she's going, and give her a few moments while I get my thoughts together. Okay, I will stop the recording for now and come back shortly. Right, well, most definitely I can feel the presence of Neil. I must say, every time he comes through in a way that is almost a little bit frightening for me. He really is very intense, and he's very enthusiastic, and I get the sense that he could manage a football team or something. He really wants to get his message across. He's incredibly quick and thinking about it, and he's already throwing things at me about creation. He says he wants to say immediately about creation that that where he is at the moment, he's at a level of creation, and he's at the source of all artistic and scientific inspiration on earth. And for him, this is the most incredible experience. Obviously, he knew about it all along, but in his earth life, he'd had completely no idea that there was this incredible, deep level of communication and creativity. But he finds this a fantastic source of inspiration and collaborative work. He says that he particularly enjoys the idea of doing things as a collaborative team. He says that creation is really important, but he wants to emphasize, and this was again something that he kind of knew about, he said, when he was alive, although again he didn't ascribe it to any spiritual thing. And that's that we are always, he says, exercising creative forces in our minds. Whenever we're thinking of making something happen, we are creating that reality. And you are able to, as a human, to visualize things that you want. You can use your imagination. You can play, he says, you can experiment. And he said, again, in his particular life, that form of playing and experimentation, visualizing and imagining, really consumed him from the earliest age. And he didn't quite realize why he was always so attracted to discovering new things and doing things in a new way. And it's probably because he says that this is what he's always been doing. It's what he's destined to do. That's what his soul and his soul group are interested in. He says that he just has to emphasize to people on earth that you can do quite a lot of creation already, but you're not really aware of that. You are already creating your environment. You are creating your health. You are creating your destiny through your thoughts. This creation was done before you came into your body. It was during your life that you were doing it, and you were doing it after your life. You are in the process, while we're in this particular zone he's going to take me to, of seeing where the blueprints of our creative life originate, and the plan that begins to manifest as your next life. But he says this started long before you passed on. He said this is happening continuously through your life in your dream state. And he says he wants to talk about dreams quickly, again, because they're so misunderstood. They are such an essential link between your conscious self and your eternal consciousness and your soul. And it's this backwards and forwards that goes between your soul and your conscious living being that takes place during your sleep periods. Not everyone is aware of it or can remember it, but he says it's very, very important. The dream environment is an environment which is very similar to where he is now. It's an environment that can be a doorway to various realms. It's also an environment that you have created yourself, and it's also an environment where you can access all creation. And he says that dreams are involved in our life as a way to also affect the events that take place in our world, in our life, but also as a collective. He says that we know that because we have a feeling sometimes that our conscious thoughts are changing things for us, that we have a sense of déjà vu, that we have done things before. He says this is all part of the creative process, the coincidences that we may feel. That is because at that point we are connecting, even when we're awake, to our soul consciousness, and it's giving us an idea of the next thing to do in our life. He says the creation is everywhere, and creation reinforces the reality that we see. He says, think of it, and it will become. And he says he just wants to repeat that again. Think of it, and it will become. Now that's very strange. I was just talking, and then both my candles just went out, as if somebody blew them out. So I don't know if that's you, Neil. What's that about? And he's saying, yes, that was a sign. That was something that he thought he'd do for a bit of fun. He says it's completely possible where he is to influence the physical things on Earth. And he just wanted to show how he wanted those candles to go out, and they did. Well, you certainly achieved that. I suppose some people would say that's a bit spooky, but thank you very much for the demonstration. He's saying, he says that he is in a particular area at the moment, which again he says you cannot see, you cannot hear, you can merely feel, and he will hopefully be able to express some of that through the music. He knows that I've already put down the words, the lyrics, if you like, for the next song, but he wants us to think about how thoughts are creating, almost like a plasma, he says, or a sort of a moldable material that bind, he says, with the tiniest particles of existence and enable solid things to come into life. And he says that's the area where he is at the moment. That's what he's learning to do. He's realizing that he can do that, and he has the possibility, he says, to paint. He says that he can paint things, or he can create things that please him, that he's never seen. Artworks or objects or even vehicles, he says. I can create cars, I can create vehicles, anything I like from my imagination. And he says, to be perfectly honest, many of them are particularly useless, but they look nice, and he says he enjoys doing that, and it's for his own personal entertainment. And he says that although that might sound fantastic to our listeners, he says that if you consider all the creativity of one person in their life, and then you consider the creativity, he says, of every living person, and then he says if you consider the creation of every person who has ever lived in the history of the earth, you have a lump of creative force. But he says that creative force is like a grain of sand, he says, in a desert. And if that can give you an idea of the amount of creative information he has access to, then he says your listeners will probably realize why it's so difficult to convey the limitless creative force that he has access to, and how exciting it is once you're free to see that, what you have the ability to do and to experience. He's saying that you are your own creation. And he says that your soul has created your own energy, your own being. It has created that now, it's created that in the past, and it's created that in the future. You have created yourself. You've created yourself from all the things that you have learned, all the things you will learn, and all the things you need to learn. And through cooperation with a lot of people, he says there are a lot of souls helping, a lot of souls involved in this process. And this particular location we're at now, which is this huge area, he says, that you can't even begin to understand its scale. And it's full of attracted souls who all move to a particular area according to what they need. And they can spend the equivalent of a lifetime, in your terms, getting ready to prepare for one single life on the planet Earth. He says there are mainly people in this area, people who are going to come back onto Earth, but he says there are equally huge, vast areas where there are different soul groups that come from other realities, other dimensions, and other planets with other forms of life. But he says we don't generally interact with them. It's very difficult for us because we have a completely different path. But he said they're all there and it's all possible. He's saying that now that we are in this area, it would be really a good time for me to read the poem that he channeled through to me. Now, I must tell you, again, Neil is saying that he's done this for me. This happened, I think, 2 days ago. I had that need. I opened up my computer and just started tapping away. And I wasn't consciously really thinking of the words. They just came through. The only thing I think of consciously is the rhyme at the end. That seemed to be so important. And sometimes I struggle with that rhyme at the end. But the words all click in. But then suddenly the word will come in and it'll be fine. And I can move to the next lines. And I finish that. And then I put that away. And then the next day I look at it again. And then suddenly I get this feeling that some words are wrong. Things need to change. And new words come and replace the old ones until I look at it and I feel, yeah, I think that's right now. Neil said, yes. I said, that is the part of creation, but it's also a part of interpretation. And he says that the words that you've now put down are the words that he's done. And he's very happy if you'd like to read them out. And we will then move on from there. Okay, Neil, I'll go and get them. Okay, so this is called the Song of Creation. Everything new has been before. Old is dynamic and nothing more. Think it so, and then it will be. Make a reflection of what's truly me. Turn it on, then light it, and will it to life. Your artist's impression, a beacon of light. Discard it, destroy it, while it renews your soul. Reshape, refashion, to make it all whole. Get better, feel stronger, mix energy with will. Mistakes, correction, it's all perfect still. Like a drummer with no fingers, or a painter that's blind. It's more than just colours, the frequencies they find. Create something new from the sounds that you feel. Think something solid, then something is real. Endless variation from just a few notes. Your conscious creation, your gift and your hopes. Here no sad songs are sung alone at night, just a wonderful feeling in the light. So, that's what came through. I'm going to be fascinated to see how Ester applies the music to that. I really hope that means something to Rachelle. I certainly feel that there's an aspect of Nicolas in there talking about what he feels. I hope that helps somewhat. So finally, Neil is going to help me channel some more sounds. Let's see how that goes. I'll be back as I have to set up my keyboard. Well, there we go. My apologies to Esther. I think that was quite a complicated one. I just want to say the very first bit was da, 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 not that I can sing. That was going around in my head like crazy last night, and I was so taken by it. I had to make the choice whether to get out of bed and go and get my iPhone and record it or stay in bed, and I just couldn't stop it because I just thought I can't forget that. It was such a wonderful sound, and that inspired me so much. So I got out of bed, went into my bathroom. I can't imagine what my wife must be thinking hearing these noises coming out of the bathroom at night, but I recorded it, and luckily I can play it on my voice notes so I remember what the tune was like. And I tried to get the key right as well. The rest of it just came through just now. There was some stuff in there which I think was quite interesting, so it'll be interesting to see what Ester can make of it. So really, it just remains for me to thank Rachelle for the lovely email. Thank you, Esther, for all the help. And also thank you to Titan for coming by. And most of all, of course, to Neil Peart, who you're doing a sterling job helping us understand everything. I have a feeling that we're not finished with creation, although I don't really quite know what happens next. But we are on this journey. And I think he'll take us somewhere else next week that will start revealing things to us about what happens when we die. It doesn't sound like anything to be particularly scared of. Thank you.